also wither away. And the end of this ayah, what does Allah say? وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. And the life of this world is nothing except delusion. The life of this world is nothing but a means of delusion. That's what Allah says subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you think then about our world, the world in which we're living, one of the things that Neil Postman says is that, everything in our background has prepared us to resist prison. Everything in our background has prepared us to resist prison. When we hear the gates closing in around us, when we hear the gates of the prison closing around us, everything has prepared us to resist prison. But he says, who would take up arms? Who would take up arms against a sea of amusements? Who would take up arms against a sea of amusements? He says, with what tone of voice, and to whom, and when, and how would we complain when all serious discourse dissolves into giggles? To whom would you complain when all serious discourse dissolves into giggles? What is the antidote to a culture's being drained by laughter? What is the antidote to a culture's being drained by laughter? And think about what he's saying there. What he's trying to say in his book is the fact that Huxley was right rather than Orwell. Although I believe that now with everything that we know of the NSA leaks and Edward Snowden, it seems as if, Orwell was also quite right in terms of global surveillance and mass surveillance and everything else. In any case, that is not our discourse, not our discussion. We believe in what Allah says and our Prophet said, ﷺ, and what Allah says is true. What our Prophet said is true. Everything else is speculative. Everything else is speculative. He says, for example, in his book, he says that ours is a society. Ours is a society in which the most important things become the least important. Ours is a world in which the paragons of our world society become the celebrities. The least significant people become the most important people. The least significant, the celebrities and the musicians and the pop stars and the sportsmen become the most significant people. The ones who people attach themselves to in terms of loyalty and adulation and reverence and respect are the people who are the least significant in our society. He said, we have become a people who have amused themselves to death. That's what he's saying. Now, one of the things that he says also in his book, before I begin what I want to say, is that he says that we need never leave the comfort of the theater. We don't ever need to leave the comfort of the theater. We can remain constantly distracted because we have learned how to escape from life into life itself. We have learned how to escape from life into life itself. Like well-trained soldiers. Like well-trained soldiers, we know exactly how to behave. We know exactly the appropriate behavior when we hear the trigger words. And these trigger words are implanted in our minds by the propagandists of this society, of societies. And what are those trigger words? Number one is that images take precedence over ideals. Is that images take precedence over ideals. And even if you look at this etymologically, the idea of the image, the origin of the word image, of course, was imitari, from which you get imitati and imitatio, and then you get imago, then you get image. And imitari was about the thing that is projected. So the image is a thing that you see, but the imitati was a thing that is emulated, the thing that is imitated, like imitation. And it's quite interesting because even the image today is what is imitated. People copy the things that they see. They want to look like the things that they see. They want to act like the ones that they see. They want to dress like the ones that they see. It's all about visual. It's all about the image over the ideal. And I remember just some years back, there was an article in the paper about a famous individual. And this was a front page story. This was a famous, famous quote unquote important individual. And she wrote an article in the paper that was front page in one of the papers that said, I love everything about my body. That was, in fact, if I remember, that was like the idea of the argument, of the article. I love everything about my body. I love my hair and my nose and my feet and my arms and my teeth and my eyes and everything else. But the only thing that was missing from that article was that I love my manners, and I love my character, and I love my behavior, and I love, my attitude. That was the only thing that was missing from the article. Almost it seems as if the most meaningful and important things were the things on the superficial level, were the things on the outer, were the things that represent trademarks and not achievements, represent trademarks and not achievements, represent things that are there only because that's how we fashion ourselves. It's like, when Shakespeare said famously that some people, some people achieve greatness, other people are born great, other people, they have greatness thrust upon them. But Shakespeare would never have imagined a world where you would simply have to pay a publicist to make yourself look great. And that is how it is today. It's about how great you look rather than how great you are. And what determines greatness, of course, is not about what clothes you're wearing, or about the color of your skin, or about, how pretty or beautiful you are or not are, or, about how much money you have. These are not the things that determine greatness. In our beautiful religion, what determines greatness and value is a person's conduct. Allah in the Quran, what does He say? إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most noble of you are those who have the most piety out of all of you. The most noble of you are those who have the best conduct and character out of all of you. Those are the most noble of you.